So, welcome, Anuj. I'm pretty sure most of you don't need any introduction on Anuj. He's been a part of the product ecosystem in India from the very early on. He started at Flipkart without knowing what the role of product was. And he pretty much defined it for the Indian ecosystems. And now he's at Jupiter. One of the things that stood out about Anuj's career is the domains that he's tackled and the depth at which he's tackled them. I often talk about how, as a product manager, your core role is to solve problems. And it doesn't matter in what area and domain you're solving problems, because if you think first principles, you can pretty much solve problems in any domain. And he's a good example of that. So, super excited to have Anuj here. Maybe you can share a little bit about your journey, Anuj. Maybe we can start there.
Mona summarized my journey quite well. I was an engineer for the first 5, 6 years, working on mostly startups, most US startups, and then a couple of Indian startups. But on the front end engineering side, started with Flipkart. As their first product manager, did not know anything about product management. Neither did I, neither did anyone else, neither did the company, and so on. So we figured it out along the way. Imagine like one product manager for 45 engineers, and we were rapidly growing as a company, like a book selling website, trying to do like professional e-commerce, with a dream of becoming $100 billion company, and with Amazon coming in 2 years, and it's a shabby looking books website where Sachin Bansal, CEO, used to go and change the logo. After working with the developer, कि चलो change करते हैं, paintbrush में design करके. So that was the seriousness with which we took the brand at that time. So very, very rich learnings from Flipkart. A lot of depth that I picked up, but largely I will start from that point. Like one of the learnings that has stayed with me, or one principle that has stayed with me is actually solving for patterns and not solving for the problem. So not only solving for the problem. So either you can call it first principle thinking, you can call it layered or higher order thinking, etc. And how do you actually put that into practice? And again, some of those things which, because as you switch domains, I was telling someone this one, like I've moved from e-commerce to actually food delivery, quick commerce, and now fintech. More things change, the more they remain the same. Like it's an exciting thing, or newer set of problems start coming in, newer variables are dealt to you, but at the core of it, it's largely the same.
And I think that's also been one of my core learnings. I actually started my professional career in Silicon Valley. I was there for about 10 years. And I also have always worked at startups. I worked at Airbnb before this for about 7.5 years, very similar to Anuj, who worked at Swiggy for about 7.5 years. But as I solved the problem for Airbnb, being a global company, handling so many different cultural nuances, the one thing that constantly struck was how similar humans are, no matter where they live in the world. And while we always think, culturally Americans are different and Europeans are different and Indians are different, some of the same safety, belonging needs are true everywhere. And yeah, like Anuj said, more about multiple order thinking and trying to understand from first principles on what works and what doesn't work. With Anuj, my first question to you is, if you open the App Store today, we don't have a single Indian app which is in the top 10, while we are the Mao and Dao of the world. Why does this exist?
Oh, that's a tough one. But actually, if you look at what are the top 10 apps in like throughout the world, largely those apps are either controlled by Google or Facebook. Like half of them are. The other ones are on social networking, gaming, etc., etc. So I think I'll not answer that particular question, but the why behind this question, why are we not building for extremely
Well,
large
we have Amazon,
audience?
we have
We do.
TikTok,
We
new
do.
entrant.
Yes, new entrant on in TikTok. So if you look at top 100 apps, so you're right. We're actually the Dow and Mao farm for the world, and we have like 5 or 6 Indian apps there. So like even Swiggy, Zomato, Flipkart, Uber, Ola, etc. are actually there. But I think it goes back to a couple of pointers, or at least three things that I feel that why Indians or Indian apps are not out there. One, I think, is just starting point on ambition. I think one part is in India, the ambition of founders and how big it can be. And I've seen that even at Flipkart and even at Swiggy, etc., etc. India itself is such a complex market. So let's just focus here, because there will be a lot of competitors here and a lot of copycats and Savdhani Hati, Durghana Ghati and all of that. And so they will just go deeper into this market. And India is like 100 markets. Every single market is different. Like when we were running Swiggy, it's like Kormangla is very different than Indranagar is very different than, and lunch is different than dinner, and the Jaipur, evening snacks is going to be different than Guwahati and all of that. And we needed to solve for all of those things. And I think so. Both the things, one is complexity, and the other is the scale and ambition. So I think both, like, the complexity kind of takes you back. One of the things that also stayed with me, with which Kunal Shah had said, like, in India, whenever you're building something, um, the more you have to build, above the surface, in India, you have to build a lot of things below the surface, because the fundamental infrastructure is not laid out well. So a lot of times you actually have to go and solve for those fundamental things rather than actually working on innovation. A lot more time actually goes and solves, and solving in that part, like building an e-commerce company. Sachin really needed to build like a third-party logistics company first, and invent COD and all of those things, etc. If you look at fintech, I think, and but that's true. While they may be true all over the world, um, but even in India, I think, and that's what Kunal also said, which is, in India, if like half your company is going to solve for trust, and half your company is going to solve for fraud, abuse, and the fundamentals, only the other half is actually going to work for innovation. So I don't think it's around the capability of Indians so much. It may be the ambition, which does not lead them to think about some truly global ideas. But even a purely Indian idea, they will basically spend half the time in like fundamental operations and like just getting the infrastructure right.
Interesting. So, how do we build world class products and how do we build world class teams?
I think the products that we are building are truly world class. Some of the products that, at least on the consumer side, I feel are truly world class. And again, I'm talking from the point of view of Swiggy because I've been recently there for like 7 8 years. Most of the people who actually go visit the US and come back and then say, "Ki, wow, like Swiggy is so much better than say DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats, and so on and so forth." I don't think we are lacking from that POV so much. Having said that, I think the fundamentals are still the same on what do we need to build world class products. I think it will need to start with understanding the market extremely deeply, and raising your bar in terms of just how well you understand the core category users who are not using anything in your particular product area, or maybe one or two competitors are there. B is actually building from that point of view of solving the fundamental insight or the fundamental nuance of that category, making sure that all of the products that we are building, they can actually be plugged in and can be scaled. I think Indian products are not fundamentally built for scale. When I mean scale, it's not technology scale, but you have all of the options available that can be tinkered across throughout the globe, so that you can run that product. To give an example, um, if you're running quick commerce like in Swiggy, we have like say 5,000 different rules to run for say delivery executive payouts, and all of them are not independent. Now, if you run a delivery executive payout here, it needs to also work with the discounting engine. It needs to also run with the marketing engine, and all of those things working together will give you a P&L in that city for a slot when it is not raining, for example. So, so the number of these parameters, some few companies are able to like figure that out and abstract these out and actually build from that POV. Otherwise, you'll be a one trick pony that works in just one market. So I think if you have to build world class products, so you need to be able to build all those openings. Like I think Uber has done this fantastically well. They're like different markets, and they were even in the beginning and even now they're able to launch fast, and then they are able to iterate very fast and plug in and kind of change on top of those abstractions. So that will require that level of engineering thinking also. Both the size of ambition that you have, firstly to be global and then building systems with that point of view. Do you think there is a talent problem? Do you think it's just a ambition problem? No, I think it's both of them. It is an ambition problem first and foremost, because if companies are not starting with that ambition, like a lot of talent will not be able to even dream that big, Mona. So the purpose of the company and their ambition and the scale itself has to be, I want to become a global leader in something. If you look at so many Indian companies, look at their vision statement. Um, it it is almost like I want to do this for India, which is perfectly fine, but they're not thinking large enough. B is, even if they've written that they want to do it for the world, but are they truly building that? I think that's one. Uh, Now, with respect to talent, I think on the engineering side, I think we have some kick-ass talent. And in my opinion, again, this is an historical fact. Like I think India started producing great engineers even back in like 90s, which were building for the world, and they were the early Infosys TCS people who went out and then came back and all of that. So I think a lot of engineering talent was there, and that has continued. But when it comes to product talent, I think that is on like product management is a recent phenomenon. Building startups is a recent phenomenon itself. Like 2010 onwards, like it really came up. Um, and my insight here is compared to the Silicon Valley, where like it has been always there, like since 60s and 70s, etc., etc. So there were a lot of business people, the ecosystem, like the VPs of operations and manufacturing and all of that, etc., and so on, already were from that ecosystem. They knew how to work with each other to deliver a kick-ass product. Now in India, if I look at who are the people in senior business roles and have they worked in startups before and have they worked in technology startups before, they are just starting to come in, and so I think it will take some time before that ecosystem matures and we are able to at least have that coherent way of product building and then deliver it for the world.
But you've had an amazing career. So you were one of the early product people in India. You worked on very, very interesting problem statements. And I was just telling my team, I for the New Year's, I went to Europe. I went to Budapest. And for the first time in my life, I came back feeling that India is way more advanced than Europe is, especially when it comes to fintech. Everything was on cash and credit. Everything was a challenge just to get the transaction across. And it is so seamless here. I've actually forgotten the concept of cash. I've also forgotten the concept of carrying my wallet. I just use my phone for everything. And it was little bit of a readjustment, and almost felt like I was going backwards in time to live there. So we've definitely come a long way, and you've had a fascinating career. Can you tell us a little bit about, for the people who want to build a career as interesting, what were some of your learnings and how did you end up making some choices, and how did you craft that?
All right, I'll try to keep it brief. There's a lot of stuff to unpack here. Um, I think it starts with of course like building the product itself, and so if I look at like the few stages of my career, first is like the product manager part, like the actual my job is product success or my the success. I'm going for product success rather than only for building the product. I think it's just the mindset of owning the outcome. I think is becomes truly important. And I've recently tweeted about this also. I think somehow what happens in India, product managers are also actually what they're doing. Many product managers are actually program management. So from my point of view, successful product managers, if you have to be like truly successful, you have to be as much outwardly focused as much you are inwardly focused. So you need to really understand marketing. You need to understand like the overall market, the category in which your product is playing, or what you're targeting. You need to understand product marketing, positioning, pricing, preference, like why are people choosing them. You need to have understanding of awareness, trial, recall, preference, all of those things, which I think most product managers are not focusing on. That they are focusing on once a user has come to my app or my product, how do I make this experience seamless. I'm saying that is still okay. Many people are not even doing that. They are focused on the third part, that, or maybe designers are building it, or I have like some basic, work that I've done on this part. How do I build this? So how when product managers are going to be focused on how do I build this, that I think is one of the biggest drawbacks in terms of product management. Well, you will need to focus, and you do need speed, and you need excellence, and you need high amount of rigor on that part as well. But that's not your fundamental job. Your job is product success. So that's, and I think with that insight, so that's one. Because if you are not using that, and if you've grown senior now, if you become a senior product manager, director of product, CPO, etc., that's the culture that you will have in the company, where your CEO or somebody else, etc., is actually governing which markets are we going to go after, what are the products that you're going to build, and so on. And the product is going to be like a loveless, careless. It kind of solves for something, but for nothing else, etc. So that's kind of one. Second, I think is what's very important is to um, as you grow more senior in your career, is be very deliberate about building your team. Extremely deliberate about building your team. I think, and I don't know whether I've shared this earlier or not, but like, for example, when I came to Swiggy, um, I had like a team of 10 product managers. I had to let go of like five of them, like maybe in a month and a half. Um, and again, nothing wrong with them, but but I think one of the quotes that I've used is that don't work with the incompetent, unfortunate, and ambitious. So I think those are the things that you have to look forward to. There are a lot of things that we can talk about building teams and so on, but I've found that choosing the right kind of people and playing long-term games with long-term people, which, as Naval says, is the most important thing. So you need to make sure that you are hiring right, you're coaching them right, and you're working backwards from their career. So you are looking at important conversations like you are a PM1, for example, or you're a PM, you want to become an SPM. Here's an 18-month path to an SPM. That's what it looks like. Here are the competencies that we are going to work on together. And this product or this company is a background, is actually your playground. And here are the things that we'll work together where you can show these competencies and improve on them. And that's how you will reach a particular place in your career. And that's how this product is going to reach. So as long as you are able to align these two things, then I think you are going to be able to build like really good teams. You are going to be able to raise the bar, and you're making sure that those the people that you'll have in the journey, they actually start become fantastic product managers. And I've seen that in a few careers that have been coached that way, and they just become outstanding product people compared to the ones with whom we don't have that. So that's kind of second. I think that uh, just the third one is product success is it'll take you somewhere, but after a certain point of time, then you need to start looking broader. So it's not only product. Like if you're in a C-level role, then everything is your problem. Then revenue is your problem, growth is your problem, then product is your problem. Your primary purpose as a product or a CPO or a product leader is actually org design, is actually ways of working. Actually, how does this entire machinery work together so that so it's the machinery that builds the machinery. And most, I would say, senior-ish product people uh, don't kind of realize that the skills that were serving me well till now are just almost like not going to help me anymore. So yeah, every step being very deliberate with respect to your learning.
How did you become deliberate? Like, did you have a mentor, a coach? Who told you about it?
Well, I think I faced a lot of failures, to be honest. So instead of me being like mentored by someone who is telling you, hey, do this, do that, I was just very observant on when I'm using the same skills as. So, for example, when I was a principal or a director AVP product in say Snapdeal versus when I joined Swiggy where I was a VP product, right? Oh my God, this looks different. Now somehow the expectations are changed, and somehow I can basically see why is this company not delivering at the fastest pace, and kept going back into what is the real reason, like why are we not shipping fast, why are we not shipping high quality products, why is the business backlog always taking priority, and so on. And ultimately, you said after 6 months, guys, we the real reason is that we are organized incorrectly. So A, we are as in terms of what the org design is, that in itself is wrong. So we fix that. Second, we fix ways of working. How do people work with each other? What do promotions look like? And how do, for example, every project delivery look like, etc., right? How do we set goals, and how do we set competency frameworks? So those were the fundamental things. And then we basically discussed ki after that frameworks of product management come in. So I talked about the 4 BBs framework and how do we prioritize and how do we announce it to the company, this is what we are going to work on. After that goes ki kaun sa product banna hai. So if you start with what do we want to build and then only look at that, that is not going to be sufficient anymore, especially if you're going to be a senior product leader. uh, so while so the short answer is I did a lot of mistakes, and then learned that why is it not working. And then when I started working towards that, and then also spoke with like a bunch of other folks across India and the world. And I had like a great partner in Ashish Chatterjee, who was like my fellow VP product. We saw, hey, this works, and this is really the way that we should be doing. So that's why that's one of my suggestions to the team here.
Awesome. There are a lot of folks here who manage other PMs, younger PMs, and obviously want to keep growing in their career. What is the mental framework to give them on how they can think about growing fast?
Two ways, right? Like I've so that's my personal philosophy. I don't think that's right for everyone. It's you need to deserve and desire same time. So A is you need to like really dream high. So that's your desire. Where do you want to go? And you at least need to be able to articulate where do you want to go. And maybe it's not very clear. Do you want to be a founder? Do you want to be a CPO? Do you want to be a general manager, something like that in 10 years? What kind of company, what kind of industry, etc.? So start there. and you may not have one answer. Maybe you'll have five answers, and any of those five are fine. Then you need to essentially have or mentally or write it down that what are the things that I need to learn to be able to reach there, which is very internal. That those are things that are internalized to you that you're learning over the way through experience. And B, what are the career paths that are going to take that? That's very, very important. Like, what are the positions that you will need to hold so that A, of course, you're learning, but at the same time, the market recognizes that you've learned these things, and it kind of opens up these opportunities for you. And that, I think, ideally you should have, maybe like speak with someone, have a mentor who has crossed that journey, maybe meet like a bunch of folks, etc., and kind of make it watertight. So that's kind of one way, which is how do you desire, and then B really is how do you deserve it. So that's your own learning curve, and learning is very personal. It's not like I can't say that, hey, do this course, read that book, etc., etc. Learning will happen through your own understanding of where you want to go. Sometimes it will happen completely accidentally, etc. I was speaking with Shreyas a couple of weeks back, and you're like, yeah, sometimes you should not force it. You know what happens is like it's like different kind of data coming from different points, and we are feeding it to our LLMs, and sometimes the answers will come in the correct way. So don't be very deliberate about things. Definitely do or learn about like the few things that are there, but be a person who is very open and be creative and all of those things. That kind of helps. But always kind of benchmark you against that. Have I learned this? Have I truly mastered this? And over a period of time, you will start building this as a muscle.
When I speak to a lot of senior product folks, I speak to a lot of founders. The common question that everybody gets asked is how do we increase the speed of execution? You have a lot of thoughts on that, and you've done that successfully. So please share your secrets with us.
Yeah, I think it works together. In my opinion, that it's essentially looking at the philosophy of working backwards. I think one of the things that I've found the the best way of executing is working backwards. So you essentially look at your product, like kind of the product manager job is to like balance a whole bunch of variables. The variables are across where are we today as a company, where do we want to go. Here's a cool idea that is there that seems to have potential. Maybe there's market out there that will use this product. We have these engineers, can they do it? We have these designers, can they actually build something that is worth building? Do we have a marketing team which can position this? There are a hazard things that will be there, etc., right? And if you follow the linear process of like, hey, first I will write the PRD, and then I will give it to the marketing team to write the positioning doc, and the pricing team to then price, and all of those things, I think you're gonna fail. B is, even if you're very agile, as I say, I think agile works when you're like shipping like small features, etc., but not really. But if you're onto something large and important, if it's your bet, then you start defining the future. I love the PRFAQ process of working. So you write down a press release and the frequently asked questions for say a particular launch that is going to happen in 6 months, and it follows like a structure of exactly on this date. So Bangalore, say March 2024, Jupiter launches something, or like we can basically decide, or Five Money launches a credit card. It can be like that, but then define it very properly. That hey, on this date, this is going to launch, and we are writing it from a very external point of view. We're writing it from a market point of view. You're writing it from the customer point of view. That really gives you the right idea of, if I launch all of these things, is it going to matter? So essentially, this particular customer segment, you write a customer quote and basically say this customer is going to say ABCD things about my product. Then you actually write the business owner's code that after launching this particular thing, in 3 months we are going to hit like say 100,000 cards. So that also kind of, that PR document is like a one single binding document that becomes like a commitment of everybody in the company towards what is written there. So that's where your business owner has signed up for that. If so, essentially the commitment is, if I launch this on Bangalore, March 2024, then I'm going to take this goal of getting to 100,000 cars in 3 months. And then you can take that to your engineering manager, that whatever is written here, because you are going to describe the product in some amount of detail. Say, can you do this? And if they say no, then you say, okay, should I iterate on scope, or should I iterate on goal, or should I iterate on positioning, or something else? So it's like one single document that you can help the entire company iterate towards. The good thing that happens is if your company takes only a few bets, sharp bets, and these are not things that you can follow for every product that you launch. If these are important bets which need to be launched in high speed, high quality, and high commitment from everybody in the team, then choose a few of them and make sure that you're meeting very, very frequently and tracking progress against goals. And literally, a lot of your, working backward philosophy can help you achieve that. I've seen in 90% of the cases whenever we have followed this, the speed was top notch. Because the other thing was everybody in the company knew that these are the three things that Swiggy is going after. So it also becomes key, hey, it's in a lot of scrutiny and spotlight. So I better deliver in time and in quality. And yeah, so that's one thing which like 90% of the times we were able to launch in time. B, it had the highest potential of success. So basically 50% plus of those products actually succeeded in the market. Versus when we did not, we were not working backwards, we are iterating forwards, which is chalo ye bhi karke dekhte hain, which is also fine. You can run experiments and A/B tests and all of that like that. But rarely large groundbreaking products come out of that. At least that's been my thinking.
Few quick questions. What's your favorite Swiggy product?
Oh my God, there's so many of them. So every year has a different favorite product. Uh, my favorite product, personally, is a product that is actually Sunset. It's not even there on Swiggy. It's called Swiggy Pop. It's something that we launched.
Everyone loves that product. Why was it Sunset?
It was Sunset because Swiggy is a three-way marketplace, right? Like so you need like customers, delivery executive, restaurants, everybody to come together in a specific hyperlocal circumstance for that product to succeed. That product was launched for office goers where we essentially don't have concept of restaurants or anything. We're like, here are 10 things or 20 things. You just go in 3 steps you should be able to check out. So an average Swiggy order time used to be around 14 minutes at that time. So I had essentially taken the goal of कि 14 minutes नहीं इसको 2 minutes करना है and some 20 steps के 3 steps करना है. And let's think of a product that works like that. There are no coupons, no delivery fee, nothing. Choice be just one page, just slide and go. That's all. So that's what we were conceptualizing the product around. But now that for that to happen, we actually had to work with a bunch of restaurants. So that's where the all operation side came in, and only X number of restaurants in the city with divergent cuisines and all, right? And then we worked with them. And we had to tell them that I will give you only a few dishes. I will give you X number of orders during 1 to 2 p.m. So you better pre-prepare them, and we'll station our delivery executives there. So it had all the three things changed. Because we were going to do free delivery, these have to be stationed there so that our batching was higher. And we were pre-preparing that so that we will still be able to deliver in time. So a bunch of things were coming together. So it was one of the most loved product. Like at one point of time, we were getting some 20-25% of orders from Swiggy just from that. But again, that product would work. It was created for a particular TG. That TG was office goers. During lunchtime, people who couldn't be bothered with कहीं से भी खाना ले और खाना चाहिए. Like that, that was the thing. Folks who at 1 o'clock they will remember, oh, I haven't carried my lunchbox. So Swiggy Pop is there. I should be able to. So when COVID hit, offices were shut. so, so that was the reason we had to sunset that product. And even after like I think when people started going back to office, the entire ecosystem had kind of moved because the restaurants that we were working for and like that entire thing had to kind of be rebuilt. Sorry for the long explanation.
Fascinating. What's your biggest pet peeve with your past team, current team, with product managers?
Oh my God, that's
Just one. We can't spend the rest of the evening.
all right. Yeah. So one pet peeve is a question needs to be answered with an answer. Like don't like beat around the bush. So if I ask you, okay, hey, is this launching on 16th? It's a yes or no question. So please tell me that rather than no, we worked with the engineers, but the designers telling us that it'll and but they have told us that they will be doing it. No, you start with yes or no and then explain the entire story. And that's true for and when like we were discussing, this is essentially executives would want like faster answers, and of course they trust you with something would have gone right or wrong, and if the answer is a no, then you tell me why. Or if I tell, hey, when is this particular product going live, the answer is a date. So please tell me the date and then build the story around that one. In a similar way, that's the other way around. When you're going to present something to an executive, or when you're going to present a proposal, hey, we should do this. Start with the recommendation and then break it down. Why did we come to this recommendation? Then say, here are the four things that we looked at. Here's a framework that we applied. Here's a market research that we did. Instead of that, many people do like, here's a 16-minute journey. It's a movie. And then after that, we'll tell you whether the villain died or the hero survived. No, start with that. So that's my pet peeve, biggest pet peeve.
What do you do to fix that? What's your recommendation?
No, I think it's very cultural. I think it needs to be done repeatedly, and it like people. Um, so even at Swiggy, Jupiter, wherever I've worked, like essentially like wh- in even like when we're sitting in a 20-member group, they need to be called out. Hold on, if you started on a story, first recognize that you went on a story. First, think, give me the answer, and then we'll break it down. And then explain them the principle around, let's call it the McKinsey principle or the reverse pyramid or like whatever. Right? So, the principle, and over a period of time, it becomes like a habit. It's very cultural also, Mona. It's essentially people, like you will see, usually non committal people doing that more than people who have an answer. So it is cultural. You will need to like keep on training those like everybody on your team around.
I have one theory behind it. I think we grew up, our education system always gave us the questions. We only were asked to answer. And we were actually given more marks if the answers were convoluted and long. If they were actually direct, you would actually score less.
No, I remember. I remember. When I was in third grade, the first time my mom slapped me, and I still remember this. I was speaking with my mom today. So there was a general knowledge question paper, which had a question which is, can you name the national animal of India? And I said yes. So, uh, like what?
Yeah, and so my mom used to always ask me when I came back from my exam, how many extra sheets did you take, right? So it is कितना 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 लिखा आपने कितना बकवास डाला था अंदर तक कि teacher should be confused that you know this. आपको आंसर नहीं भी आता है, you have to add enough for the teacher to know that you know this, right? So I think we are just trained growing up, not being able to articulate well, and we are celebrated for not articulating well, and so it's very hard to actually give a very direct answer. And I had to culturally, for me, I had this realization when I went to the valley and people used to ask me questions, and I had a very similar way to answer, and they used to always call me out, saying, "I just this is a 5 word answer. Why have you said 25 words?" And over time I kind of got better with it, and now that I've gotten better with it, actually sometimes people find like I'm too direct, honest, sometimes aggressive when I just give the answer without giving any explanation. But I think my theory is that also this whole thought process of not asking questions but only answering is what drives all of us to be more solution focused than problem focused. It's like problem कोई और बता देगा, solution हम figure out कर लेंगे. So yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It's a very good insight. So that is one point where we are. So your insight is essentially around the learning and the training that we have gotten. I have, and I hope that is true for the most part, because there are also a set of executives or product managers, whoever, whose inherent philosophy is that if you can't convince them, confuse them. So that also happens. All right, like the executive will go in 2 minutes anyway because I'm speaking so much.
I hope there are not that many of them. What's your one goal for 2024?
Two goals. So I've always have like one is a professional goal in terms of Jupiter, right? I think which is on the professional side. Really want to make sure that it moves into the direction of India's most loved financial app. It's not like a goal in terms of like not very well defined. I'm articulating that goal well before you say कि okay यार कहाँ है? So that's the goal that I want to take. Uh, the other one, Mona, is something that we talked about last week. Is essentially jitna important is like my professional success. In a similar way, I look at like the success of like, am I able to like help product leaders becoming better? And usually every year I take 3 or 4 of them like very personally where I help them with their journeys. So that's another goal. That's almost like a consistent one for all yours. Will be true for 24 as well. Anuj was talking about this. We met last week and we were discussing about how we both care a lot about giving back to the community and finding ways to um, nurture the community in a way that we have some of the best
products being built out of India. If I had to say this one thing I would love for my legacy to be is improving the product culture in India. And he said the same thing, and we started discussing about how maybe third place can be the starting point of finding folks that you know we can coach, mentor, and learn from each other, learn from as well, to make the product ecosystem better. So uh, yeah, looking forward to having lovely conversations.